Hi, everyone. Vasu Vaddiparty here. This is the VPartySports Podcast for Thursday, December 8th, 2022. Can you believe how fast this year has gone by? Unbelievable. Today's broadcast will preview Thursday night football. We'll talk some NBA, NCAA basketball as well, too. College football, starting with bowl seasons, will start next week all the way through the championship game at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. The Final Four is all set for the NCAA. On December 31st, the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona will host the number 2 Michigan Wolverines versus the number 3 TCU Horned Frogs. The early line on that, 2.5 weeks away, Michigan 7.5, the total 59. Of course, TCU lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. Michigan thumped Purdue in the Big 10 championship last Saturday as well. Georgia, number 1, will host the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes, who backed their way in after losing to Michigan 2 weeks ago. They got thumped by Michigan, but they backed their way into number 4 because USC lost. Alabama could not get in, and Tennessee faltered as well down the stretch. They'll be at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Talk about a home field advantage. The Atlanta, Georgia area is going to host the Peach Bowl with the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs and that suffocating defense going to take on the Buckeyes in Ohio State. Hopefully the Buckeyes fans will travel a little bit. I'm sure they will for a national championship game. National championship semifinal with the chance to get another national championship for those Buckeyes. The early line is the Georgia Bulldogs at 61.5, the total. We'll break all that down as well as all the bowl games starting next week, as well as we said, all the bowl games starting out on the 16th, all the way through the national championship game, which is going to be played at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, where there's a football game tonight, and we'll get to that in a little bit as well, too, as we get to the NFL previews later on in the show. But the NCAA is all set bowl-wise. The Final Four is all set up. The national championship game yet to be determined. We know where it's going to be. We know the dates of all the bowl games. Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter who your alma mater is, who your favorite college football team. If they got a bowl game, let's talk about it. We'll preview every bowl game as they come about during the week, starting on the 16th all the way to January 9th. Okay, this is the VPartySports Podcast. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. As you said, semifinals for the NCAA, big college football weekend last weekend. College basketball takes over now. Coming this Saturday with no college football, there'll be big college basketball games, both in and out of conferences. 3 conferences have pretty much started in conference play. We'll get to the NCAA basketball in a little bit, but I want to start with baseball here. Free agency news. Yesterday, the big news about Aaron Judge re-signing with the New York Yankees, a 9-year, $360 million contract for Aaron Judge. Xander Bogaerts leaves the Boston Red Sox. He's going to go west to the San Diego Padres for 11 years. Jacob deGrom has a 5-year contract to leave the Mets to go to the Texas Rangers. And Justin Verlander leaves Houston to go to the Mets and team up with his old Detroit Tigers running mate Max Scherzer. He's going to go to the Mets for 2 years at age 40. Trey Turner goes from west to east. He leaves Los Angeles to go to Philadelphia for 11 years. And then Boston signs Kenley Jansen and Masaka Yoshida, the Japanese outfielder free agent that's coming in. But let's get to the Aaron Judge deal here. Obviously, here's the big news. This whole free agency period, the winter meetings are about to end this week. They're in San Diego right now. A lot of reporters, a lot of baseball beat writers down there checking in on their teams, as well as the big news with all the free agencies going on. But Aaron Judge signs for a 9-year, $360 million. Sure, there's incentives. Sure, there's benchmarks. Probably use the Giants, the Dodgers, probably a few other teams, maybe all other 31 teams for all we know, all other 29 teams for all we know. Still got football in the brain to come back with the pinstripes. But the important thing there, not only that, this is a legacy signing. He's a Hall of Fame player. He led the American League in home runs, the MVP for 2022, 62 home runs, an American League record as he beat Roger Maris in the last week of the season. He did that at Texas. An unbelievable year for Aaron Judge, 62 home runs. According to what I read, the wins runs created, WRC, another analytics stat that a lot of people don't know about, but apparently his numbers equaled out to another $93 million. At the beginning of this season, he turned down a 7-year, $230 million contract and basically bet on himself. He played his heart out. He played his guts out. He got an MVP, bet on himself, and cashed in. 9 years, $360 million. I live in Silicon Valley. I live in the Bay Area. Most of you know that. Using leverage with other teams to have offers is nothing different than what Silicon Valley executives do here. Okay, they look for better offers. And when you get a better offer and you find out the best one's at home, not only that, they're going to put a C on your chest that have been reserved for people like Derek Jeter, for Thurman Munson. Now Aaron Judge is going to be a captain of the New York Yankees. Talk about a storied franchise and a storied position to be in. He's the face of the franchise. He's the face of baseball right now. 9 years, $360 million. Actually, the Yankees may have gotten a deal on that. It was believed to be said that the San Diego Padres offered him more money, close to $400 million. But he goes back to New York. He's become a New York boy. I know he's from the Bay Area. He's going back to New York, where he's familiar, where he's comfortable. He's been there since 2016. 9 years, $360 million for Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees. Welcome back to New York, say the Yankees fans. And that big wind tunnel you hear is not the right center field tunnel where all those home runs go to land. It's all the Yankees fans that are exhaling that he's returning. Now they got to figure out what to do with the rest of the team, maybe get another starter. The bullpen has been a little shaky. They did sign Tommy Conley from the Dodgers last year, so he's going to go in there and be one of the bullpen men as well, too. But the Yankees looking to improve on what they did last year. They got swept by the Astros in the American League Championship Series, and this is a big piece with Aaron Judge. All right, now we move to the Yankees' rivals, the Boston Red Sox. They lose their shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. He signs an 11-year contract for $280 million to go west to San Diego. Padres were looking at one of the four shortstops. I know they spoke to Carlos Correa. I know they were looking at Dansby Swanson as well. They were going to offer a big contract to Trey Turner. I think they did offer a big contract. Funny, they did trade Trey Turner at one time. They traded him to Washington when they were fighting out for a division race, one of those midseason trades where Trey Turner was a throw-in. Well, what a throw-in he turned out to be for the Washington Nationals. He did lead them and help that cause, along with Juan Soto and Scherzer, to a 2019 World Championship. And then he got traded with Scherzer to the Dodgers, played for a year and a half here, and then signed the free agent contract to go to the Philadelphia Phillies. He's going to be in Philadelphia, is Trey Turner. But Xander Bogaerts is going to be in San Diego for 11 years, $280 million. And what this tells me about San Diego, and again, everybody that's followed free agency and all the baseball winter meetings, please reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube with your comments of what you think about the free agency this year. Obviously, money's going to go up every year. It's the nature of the business. You're only worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And yeah, the contracts are high, but if somebody's willing to throw it at you, I don't think any one of us online or watching or myself would turn down that money at all. If you put a contract in front of me for that much money, I'd probably sign it just like that. But it tells me that Fernando Tatis is not a shortstop, and he's probably going to be in the outfield somewhere, or they might move him to third base. But he is not a very good defensive shortstop. It showed a couple of years ago. And last year he got hurt. When he came back, he played center field. They don't want him in the middle of the action at the middle of the diamond with that explosive bat to have to get hurt playing shortstop, turning double plays or taking ground balls off your mouth, off your chest, off your legs, any type of injury that's going to keep Fernando Tatis Jr. healthy. That's going to be a good lineup. Now they've got Juan Soto. They've got Xander Bogaerts. They've got Fernando Tatis Jr. They've got Manny Machado, which you completely forget about now. He's at third, so Xander Bogaerts will go to San Diego. Machado at third. Bogaerts at short. Great defensive left side, so Tatis pretty much set for the outfield, as we said. So Trey Turner signs 11 years with the Philadelphia Phillies. He's going to go join one of his best friends, Bryce Harper. They competed last year. They got to the NLCS. They lost to the who did they lose to? They lost to the San Diego Padres and made it to the World. They beat the San Diego Padres and lost in the World Series. I'm sorry, I'm getting my facts all mixed up with all this free agency news. It's tough when you don't have a producer handing you notes. But Trey Turner signs 11 years with the defending National League champion Philadelphia Phillies. He's going to go east. He's going to take over the shortstop issues they had. Bryson Stott there. They did not re-sign Gene Segura, so Bryson Stott can move over to second. Bryce Harper's going to be out until July. He's going to have Tommy John surgery, I believe, or rotator cuff surgery. Don't know if he's ever going to play the outfield again like he did before. A terrific outfielder, but they've got Castellanos. They've got Schwarber. They've got a lineup that's set right now. They've got Brandon Marsh. They traded from the Angels. He was a big pickup, and defensively, he helped out big time for the Phillies all through the playoffs. So Trey Turner going to be an added piece to them. Now, where does that leave the other two of the big four? Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa. I've heard that Carlos Correa has talked to the Giants I had heard that he talked to the Padres, but now with the Bogart signing, you can knock San Diego off the list. Minnesota may still be in the picture where he was last year, but he's still out there. And you got to think that the San Francisco Giants are looking to make a splash. They've signed Mitch Haniger. They were in on Aaron Judge, but they couldn't get Aaron Judge. So if you can get Correa and Mitch Haniger, that might ease some of the Giants fans' pain here of not getting Aaron Judge, a local boy who did not come back home, instead signing with the Yankees. And then Dansby Swanson has been in major talks with the Dodgers to be their shortstop. I'm not convinced as a Dodger fan, and I'm not sure Dodgers fans are convinced that Gavin Lux is the answer at shortstop. Dansby Swanson, a terrific bat, went to Vanderbilt. Great program there. Successful with the Atlanta Braves after a trade from the Arizona Diamondbacks. But Dansby Swanson in hot and heavy negotiations, from what I understand, with the Dodgers. All right, other free agencies. If you're a Cubs fan, you can't be happy. The rival St. Louis Cardinals have taken your catcher, Wilson Contreras. Some may say the heart of the Cubs the last few years. 5 years, $87.5 million. He's going to go to St. Louis. He's going to replace Yadier Molina, who's retired and has moved on. So Contreras is going to come in and be the catcher for the next 5 years. He's still in his mid to late 20s. He's got a lot of baseball left in him, and he's going to be good behind the plate, not only defensively, but also with the bat. Not only with the bat, as we know that he can hit the bombs, but defensively, he's got a terrific arm. He calls a good game, and he's going to be really good for that St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff. We mentioned Kenley Jansen and Yoshida both signing with the Red Sox, the Japanese outfielder. $15 million posting bonus. You have to have a posting bonus for foreign players to be able to talk to them, according to the agencies, according to Major League Baseball, a collective bargaining agreement in dealing with free agents from not within the United States. So Masataka Yoshida signs a 5-year contract. He was well sought after by a lot of Major League Baseball teams. He signs for 5 years, $105 million, 15 of that the posting bonus, so $18 million a year. Kenley Jansen going to come in and help solve the bullpen issues. The Red Sox, after losing Bogarts, they are trying to establish their pitching staff again. They're going to need some help, and Kenley Jansen will be there to help them as well. Their offense is pretty good right now. Verdugo and Devers are there. Now that Bogarts is gone, the Red Sox can focus on Rafael Devers and making sure that he stays there long-term as well. Joining Justin Verlander with the New York Mets, Jose Quintana, who was with the Pirates, then traded midseason to the Cardinals, helped the Cardinals get into the playoffs. He joins Justin Verlander. Verlander got a 2-year deal for $86 million. He's going to be 40 when opening day hits in April. And Quintana got a 2-year, $26 million deal. Very crafty left-hander. Doesn't overpower you, but can throw 90s, but has a great changeup and a good sinker and a good cutter. And that will help the Mets pitching staff. He'll be there on the back end of the rotation. Scherzer, Verlander. They lost Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker went to Philadelphia, but hopefully they'll get Chris Bassett back. And now they've got 3 starters set up for possibly maybe David Peterson coming back to get another shot as a starter as well. The Cubs, they lose Contreras. They add Jameson Taillon. The former New York Yankee was outstanding with the Yankees. He did get a lot of run support, and there's going to be days where he doesn't get a lot of run support in Chicago. If you know the wind structure, early in the year, it's not going to be a lot of runs, but he's got a heavy sinker. He was with the Pirates. He knows that NL Central very well. The Cubs know him very well. He dominated the Cubs for the 3-4 years that he was in the top of the rotation for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Jameson Taillon, 15-game winner or thereabouts with the Yankees, joins the Chicago Cubs. And then the Dodgers did not offer arbitration to Cody Bellinger. So the former MVP signs a 1-year contract for $17 million to play outfield for the Chicago Cubs. He's going to love hitting in Chicago. Belly bombs are going to be heard far and wide in Chicago. I mentioned Mitch Haniger. He's a Bay Area kid. He was with Seattle for 5 years. He comes home. He signs with the Giants a 3-year contract, along with the possibility of getting Carlos Correa, the Giants, and Farhan Zaidi, opening up the pocketbooks a little bit. $45 million for 3 years for Mitch Haniger. Good power hitting outfielder. Not sure how much outfield he's going to play, but a DH possibility for him as well. He did have 30 home runs a couple of years ago in Seattle, a tough ballpark to hit home runs. And Josh Bell, formerly of the San Diego Padres, is getting a 2-year deal to go to Cleveland. He's going to be the Cleveland Guardians' new first baseman, and he's going to go there. There we go. A little glitch there. Mitch Haniger, somebody from San Diego didn't like it, so Mitch Haniger gets a 3-year deal. Josh Bell gets a 2-year deal to go to Cleveland. The Texas Rangers made a buzz. They're noting and they're following on the Houston Astros' heel right now. They made a buzz. The first domino, Jacob deGrom, signed last week a 5-year contract to leave and go to Bruce Bochy's team now. Bruce Bochy and Mike Maddox, the manager and pitching coach for the Texas Rangers, they want to compete with the Astros. The Angels, the Mariners, and the A's are all right there. The Mariners had a good year as well last year. So those 3 teams trying to make a buzz right now. The Angels, we'll see what the Angels do. They've tried to make some moves here in the last couple of weeks as well to get them to compete with Houston and Texas. But definitely Texas with that lineup. You've got Corey Seager, you've got Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia had a great year. They've got Lowe at first base. Now they've got deGrom on the hill. Their bullpen's pretty solid. Their starting pitching was where they were left out a little bit. Martin Perez was there last year. He had a good year as well too. So Jacob deGrom adding his talents to the Texas Rangers. They add Andrew Heaney as well for the back end of the bullpen, to back end of the rotation. 2 years, $25 million for the left-hander formerly of the Dodgers. Had a good year with the Dodgers. Got a lot of run support. He'll get some run support in Texas with that ballpark. Some days they don't score a lot of runs. It's a bigger ballpark than it was the old Ranger Stadium. But 2 years, $25 million for that offense, and Andrew Heaney and deGrom bookending the rotation with Martin Perez in the middle. It's going to be a pretty good staff for Texas. It's going to be a pretty good team in 2023 for the Texas Rangers. All right. What do you think on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter? I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is a VPartySports Podcast. Free agency news. This winter meetings, the general managers meeting this week in San Diego. The meetings are about ready to close out. A lot of free agent talk, a lot of movement in Major League Baseball. Of course, the Japanese movement as well too, with Yoshida coming from the Japanese league as well. He played with Nippon, I believe, and then Kenley Jansen, Quintana, Tyon, Bellinger for the Cubs, Haniger with the Giants, Josh Bell with the Guardians, the Rangers making moves, Contreras breaking the Cubs fans' heart. How you doing, Cubs fans? Wilson Contreras leaving the north side to go to your arch rivals, the St. Louis Cardinals. Boy, that's got to hurt big time for the Cubs fans right now. Xander Bogaerts leaving Boston. That hurts Boston a little bit, but they've got some guys that can come in and play. Bogaerts was hurt in the middle of the year. They've had some shortstops that have come in and played, and they're looking to develop their next shortstop. Xander Bogaerts goes to San Diego. Trey Turner, Correa, Swanson left as the other 2 candidates of the big 4 of the shortstops that were in free agency this year. And then, of course, Aaron Judge, the big one, 9 years, $360 million, with the New York Yankees using leverage from the other teams to get the contract that he bet on himself for, turning down the contract at the beginning of the year, signing the big deal, going to become captain. Not since the likes of Derek Jeter, Thurman Munson, are you going to have the C placed on your jersey. And that's a legacy signing for the New York Yankees. The Pinstripe fans are very happy. He's going to probably go out and bomb another 55 to 60 home runs going into next year. All right, when we come back, Vasu Vaddiparty here, the VPartySports Podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, with replays going through all day. We'll get to Thursday Night Football. We'll preview Sunday's Week 14 action a little bit, and we'll get to some NBA and NCAA basketball before we give you the worldwide, famous, unprecedented, never duplicated Best Bet segment of Thursday. Back in 30 seconds with the VPartySports Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hi, how you doing? Welcome back. VPartySports Podcast. You can reach me on Twitter and Instagram, Vasu Vaddiparty on Facebook and YouTube, at VPartySports. Subscribe on my YouTube channel as well. You can reach me both, like I said, at Instagram and YouTube at VPartySports. We're televising right now on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. So thanks, everybody, for joining in right now. I see a couple people already online watching this. I know you're waiting for your Best Bet segment. Don't forget, we'll replay this all afternoon on all the outlets, so you'll be able to in case you missed the best bet segment or some of the news and sports. You're working today, noontime on the West Coast, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, getting ready for Thursday night football as we have coming on tonight. The lines for Sunday are there. The Las Vegas Raiders are going to go to SoFi Stadium. Speaking of SoFi Stadium, we talked about them for the national championship. The LA Rams play their home games there. The LA Rams are nowhere near the Super Bowl team they were last year. They do not have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford. He's on injured reserve. They do not have a wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, who was made famous last year in the playoffs. He won't be back till week 17. They do not have Aaron Donald playing tonight, the defensive MVP. He is out tonight. The Las Vegas Raiders are not exactly great. They've won a few games in a row. They did win over the Chargers last week, 27-20. Derek Carr to Devontae Adams have been great, but they are a 6.5-point favorite on the road. The total is set at 42.5. Baker Mayfield, who was released by the Carolina Panthers, signed with the Rams on Tuesday. There's a possibility, according to Sean McVay and Rams people, that he may play 2 days after signing. Doesn't even know the playbook, but McVay feels comfortable with him. Could he start? John Wolford played well versus Seattle. They had a chance to win that game. Defense gave it up at the end. Seattle got the victory at the end on the DK Metcalf touchdown that kept Seattle in pace with the 49ers. We'll preview the Week 14 stuff. You see the lines going by on the bottom ticker right now for the morning and afternoon games. Well, morning on the West Coast and afternoon on the West Coast as well too. So anyway, the point being that the Rams have Baker Mayfield, the quarterback. Is he going to play? Cam Akers is there. They released Darrell Henderson, so you have to figure out what they're going to do offensively. Defensively, they're going to be without Howard at linebacker. He's their signal caller as well too. This looks like a possibility for the Raiders. I mean, they're not usually very good as a favorite. They were last week against the Chargers, but I don't think they've been a road favorite all year. And here they are, the road favorite, as we said. Aaron Donald out tonight. They nearly beat Seattle. Josh Jacobs is questionable for the Raiders. He was limited in practice on Wednesday. But how about the year of Josh Jacobs? We talked about Aaron Judge. Free agency-wise, the Raiders did not re-sign him for this fifth-year option. And all he's done is lead the NFL with 1,300 yards rushing, 1,303 to be exact. And Derek Carr and Devontae Adams from their Fresno State days, they are reunited this year. And it's been great for Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. The rest of the team, not so much. They're playing better now. But they are nowhere near where they thought they would be division-wise. The Raiders are 5-7. They're still technically with a chance for the playoffs for a wild card. They're not going to catch the Chiefs. Nobody's going to catch the Chiefs. They're 9-3, even though they lost last week to Cincinnati. But Devontae Adams has 12 touchdowns, and he leads the NFL in that category. So you've got the leading rusher, you've got the leading touchdown maker on your staff, and you're still 5-7. Defense. Can they stop a limited Rams offense today? John Wolford, I can't imagine Baker Mayfield's going to start. I asked a couple people in LA today what they heard this morning before we came on air to see what the status was for Baker Mayfield. They say he's up on the playbook, that he knows things, but to have him start 2 days after signing a contract, and if you've seen NFL playbooks, you got a better chance of learning Russian and Greek at the same time than you do learning an NFL playbook in 2 days. It's nearly impossible. You see the afternoon lines going at the bottom, but that's tonight's game. Granted, it's not a very good game. The Rams coming in. Everybody's got to play on Thursday night. The Raiders are 5-7. The Rams right at the bottom at 3-9. Not a very good Thursday night matchup. Everybody's got to play on Thursday. Some teams have already played twice on Thursday, the Rams being one of them, the Patriots being the other. Next Thursday will be San Francisco and Seattle, so we'll get a better game from that standpoint. But you see the lines going by. So that's the line for the Rams and Raiders tonight. Both teams in the 80s. They played games in the same area in Los Angeles, the Coliseum, and in Anaheim for the Los Angeles Rams. After they left the Coliseum, they went down to Anaheim. I was a youngster down there, saw the Rams play in Orange County as well. They had a Super Bowl there in 1980. The Raiders had a Super Bowl in Pasadena when they were the Los Angeles Rams, Marcus Allen's rookie year coming out of USC. So those days were long gone. This is Rams and Raiders in 2022. it's going to be nearly impossible for them to get going. All right, we look at the NFL for Sunday. Detroit, Minnesota. Detroit's a favorite versus Minnesota. Buffalo 10 versus the Jets. The Jets still have an outside shot at the division. They beat the Bills already this year. Minnesota's clinched the NFC North, by the way, so maybe that's why Detroit's favored by 2. These Sharps, they know what they're doing a little bit. 43.5 the total for the Jets and the Bills. Pittsburgh 2.5 over Baltimore. No Lamar Jackson for 1 to 3 weeks. Pittsburgh 2.5-point favorite. Pickett has been doing great. Pickens, the rookie wide receiver, they've developed a nice chemistry. Now the Steelers are a favorite at home over the Baltimore Ravens. Philadelphia, only road favorite, one of 2 road favorites. 7-point road favorite at the Giants. They win this week. They're probably going to clinch out the division. They've already got a win on the Cowboys. The Cowboys, we'll get to them in a second, but they've got the Houston Texans in-state rivalry. Not really much of a rivalry the way the Texans are playing. The Cincinnati Bengals are only a 5.5-point favorite against Cleveland. I say only because Cleveland has played better. They've done all right with Jacoby Brissett. Defensively, they haven't played very well. 47 the total there. The Bengals are red hot, and right now they're a team to be reckoned with. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase came back last week. They beat the Chiefs at home. They were an underdog at home to the Chiefs. 5.5-point favorite here to Cleveland. Of course, Deshaun Watson made news. He came back after missing the first 10 games of the season, first 11 games of the season, played against his former team, the Houston Texans. I tell you, the NFL knows how to put a story together. Cincinnati 5.5, 47. Tennessee 4, Jacksonville 41 the total. Tennessee got ramrodded by Philadelphia last week. In fact, it cost the general manager, John Robinson, his job as A.J. Brown. The former Titan wide receiver torched his former team for 2 touchdowns. And then we talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Now, you're a better person than me if you're going to lay an NFL game at 18 points. The Dallas Cowboys are favored by 18 points over the Houston Texans. I know Houston is 1-8-1 or 1-9-1 or 1-10-1. They're 1-10-1, and the Cowboys are 9-3. They're 2 back of the Eagles. They lose the tiebreaker to Philadelphia by virtue of losing, but they'll have another Christmas Eve game for that division. They still got a chance of the division, a slim one at that. Philadelphia's playing outstanding, 11-1, the best record in the NFC right now. Buffalo, the best record in the AFC. We'll have a full preview of these games and more on Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, and replays all through until kickoff on Sunday. All right, the afternoon games, as we said, the afternoon games, Kansas City, that got flexed out of Sunday night. That's a 4 o'clock Eastern game, 9.5-point favorite at Denver. Don't you think Patrick Mahomes is a little mad after losing at home to Cincinnati? They're 3 games up on the Chargers. They beat the Chargers twice, so make it 4 games up. Division over, Kansas City 9.5. They're trying to fight Buffalo for the best record. The Buffalo Bills 9-3, the Chiefs 9-3, but Buffalo beat them early in the year, so they have the tiebreaker edge on them. Denver's offense, we know about them. Seattle 4 versus Carolina, came back against the Rams last week. The Carolina Panthers, all sorts of disarray, played a little bit better last few weeks. Steve Wilkes, the interim coach, see how that goes. They've got plans in place for a new coach next year. 44 the total in that game. Seattle needs a win to stay with the 49ers. Speaking of those 49ers, the game of the week this week, 37.5 the total, low scoring. We saw what Tampa Bay did on Monday night versus New Orleans, coming back with Brady. 49ers, 3.5-point favorite. Of course, you know the Brock Purdy story. Mr. Irrelevant, the last player picked in the draft. He's the guy now. Garoppolo going to be out until maybe the latter part of the playoffs, according to Kyle Shanahan. There's a possibility he may come back. It's not very good right now. But the 49ers, based on that defense, first points they allowed on defense in the last 6 games in the second half was that touchdown to Miami. 3.5 points for San Francisco favored over Tampa Bay. 37.5, Tom Brady making a visit to the West Coast where he's from. Still called it San Fran. Really, Tom? You should know better. You grew up in San Mateo, about 20 minutes from San Francisco, 20 minutes from where I am, right here in San Jose, California. You can't call San Francisco San Fran. You should know better than that. You grew up in the area. 37.5 the total. Not a lot of points expected in this game. Brock Purdy going up against a guy he quote, Brock Purdy said, Tom Brady's been playing football longer than I've been alive. And that's very, very true. The 45-year-old Brady up against the 23-year-old Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. Sunday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins, after their loss at San Francisco, 3.5-point favorite at the Chargers. Defensively, they didn't look very good against the 49ers. They have not looked good defensively all year. Surprising a little bit. They're 3.5-point favorite at the Chargers, 51.5 the total. Monday Night Football, New England at Arizona. New England still trying to fight in for the playoffs. They're in the 10th spot as we see the wild card. Let me see where they are. They're in the 8th spot right now. They're ahead of the Chargers, and they're ahead of the Raiders. So this is a big game on Monday night, and kind of a big game for the Raiders if they're going to have a chance to get into the top 7 as well. The Raiders have a very depleted Rams team tonight. All right, best bet segment for the NFL for tonight before we hit the NBA. I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. Call me dumb, and I've been called worse. Trust me. 6.5-point favorites on the road. Usually not a good road team, but this Rams team is so depleted. I'm not sure who they're going to start at quarterback, if it's John Wolford or Baker Mayfield or whomever. I didn't get a chance to look at the depth chart. I have no idea who the other quarterback is for the Rams. Again, somebody on Facebook, somebody on Twitter can look up Rams depth chart and send me a note as to who the Rams backup quarterback is, or the third quarterback in this case with Baker Mayfield. So the Rams and Raiders tonight on Thursday Night Football, kind of a yawner, but Las Vegas minus 6.5, the way to go. Keep their playoff hopes alive. The Carter-Adams combination has been great for Las Vegas this year. They're going to go in, and they're going to beat up on the Rams a little bit tonight. No Aaron Donald. That certainly helps. And by the way, very underrated Howard at linebacker. He's their signal caller. He's out as well, too, for the Rams. So this could be one of those games. Raiders defense has played better. They showed that against the Chargers. Josh Jacobs leading the NFL in rushing at 1,300 yards, and Devontae Adams leading the NFL with 12 touchdowns. All right, one more break with the NBA, and we'll hit the college basketball scene a little bit, and we'll give you the best bets for NBA and college basketball as well, too. And also a very sports-related, political-related happening today in the world of sports and politics. We'll get to that as we close out the VParty Sports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on a Thursday afternoon. Don't forget the replays if you missed the best bets or any of the info coming up right after, and we'll loop all through the afternoon until game time start around 7 o'clock for most of the games. And then, of course, the football game goes at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 here on the West Coast on Prime Video. Back in 30, the NBA, college basketball, with you on the VParty Sports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. Final segment of the VParty Sports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on a Thursday afternoon. All the particulars are in place for the NFL tonight. What a yawner that's going to be. The Rams and Raiders tonight. Both teams fighting for their draft pick lives. The Raiders are 5-7. An outside shot at the wild card. 6.5-point favorite at the Rams tonight. Best bet segment had me taking the Raiders at minus 6.5. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow, 3 Eastern, with a preview of a full NBA slate. NCAA basketball. This is the first weekend without college football. So NCAA basketball takes over all day Saturday. Don't forget, daily posts are out at 6 p.m. Eastern every weekday that we do not have a show. Actually, we're going to change that. We're going to start making daily posts every day. If you're interested in sponsorship, inquire with me at VParty Sports on Twitter, VParty Sports on Instagram. Send me a note. Come to your restaurant, come to your sports bar, do live shows, whatever days you want. We'll promote your restaurant. We'll promote any of the specials you have, all the sports bars that are out there in the Bay Area or anywhere that you want me to come out to. Just contact me and we'll do live remotes, or make sure to get you lots of mentions on the VParty Sports Podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you as well. All right, let's get to the NBA. Like I said, a yawner of a football game tonight, unless you're a Raiders fan or a Rams fan, or you have action on it, which most people do, for that matter. So that's why they tune into the VParty Sports Podcast, because they will have action on the game. In the NBA tonight, let's bear it out from Wednesday. Last night, the Magic came back to beat the Clippers in overtime. The Clippers were up in Orlando by 15 to 18 points, but Orlando came back, got them in OT. The Nets don't cover. They beat Charlotte 122 to 116. The score of the Orlando game was 116-111. In overtime, 122 to 116 Brooklyn over Charlotte. The Hawks get blown out by New York, 113 to 89. The Knicks, I can't figure them out. Sometimes they play well, sometimes they don't. But last night they played great. Julius Randle was on fire. Hawks defense was terrible in the lane last night. That game on ESPN, a lot of people probably saw it. No Anthony Davis, no LeBron James last night. Toronto cruises to an easy victory, 126 to 113. The Pelicans do not cover. They hold off the Detroit Pistons, 104 to 98. In that game, Utah steals one from the Warriors. In the last 15 seconds, the Warriors lose 124 to 123 to Utah. Warriors still struggling a little bit, but a lot of people still say that they're okay come January, February time. None of the starters played. You see the ticker going at the bottom. Missed a couple of games on the other page. Bulls hold off Washington. They didn't cover -5, 115 to 111. The Wizards covered. The game stayed under the 227, but barely. 115, 111 was your final score there. Memphis continues to play well. They get a 123-102 victory over Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, generally a good team on the road when they're covering, but Memphis, too good of a team right now. They beat up on OKC. And Milwaukee beats Sacramento. Sacramento was red hot. They had that game close for a little while until the fourth quarter. Milwaukee went on a run to close it out and win by 13. And then Minnesota beats up on the Indiana Pacers. Indiana, who just came into the Bay Area, beat the Warriors on their home court. They get beat 121 to 115. All right, the other games we mentioned, the Pelicans do not cover against the Pistons. They do win 104-98. They're 16-8. How about that? The New Orleans Pelicans are 16-8. They even haven't had a full swing of Zion Williamson yet. Utah steals one from the Warriors. And the game of the night, the pick of the night, did not get this to you because I did not have a daily post yesterday. The Boston Celtics are on fire. There's no other way to put it. 21-5. As a Lakers fan, it hurts a little bit. 21-5. They had a 40-point lead at one point. They destroyed the Phoenix Suns in the desert, 125-98, the final score. They were a 1.5-point underdog. What? They were a 1.5-point underdog? How are you an underdog? I get it. Phoenix is good. 16-9 now after the loss yesterday, but 21-5. And Phoenix is a favorite going to that game. That too easy. Too easy from that standpoint. All right. Tonight, as you see the ticker, 3 games in the NBA. Of course, not a lot in the NBA on Thursdays anyway. Miami Heat, 6-point favorite versus the Clippers, who had that loss in Orlando. Houston Rockets, 1.5 at San Antonio. Houston beat up on Philadelphia in overtime 2 nights ago. They beat the Sixers even with Embiid, 229.5 the total. Portland, -1 over Denver, 227.5. Best bets for the NBA. Going to go with those Portland Trail Blazers. They've got Lillard back, -1. Houston Rockets, -1. The over, very tempting in that game, but you just don't know which San Antonio team's going to come out and shoot. But Houston, 1.5. And I'm going to go with the Clippers. Usually back-to-back games, usually the opposite happens. That's been the trend. In Miami, they have their issues when they're a big favorite like this. The Clippers and their talent, +6 at Miami tonight. All right, let's move on to college basketball a little bit. A couple of games yesterday in the NCAA. St. John's is 9-1 now. Big East play started for them. They beat up on DePaul big time yesterday. 85-69, I believe, was the final score yesterday. Let me make sure I got that right here. They were 86-67 over DePaul yesterday as well in Big East play. Big Ten saw Michigan State, a 4-point underdog. They struggled a little bit, but they're a tough team. And Northwestern yet to prove themselves. They beat up on Northwestern 67-58 at Penn State, not Northwestern, at Penn State. Penn State, a 4-point favorite. Michigan State covered. Penn State's had a good year this year. They're 6-3. The Spartans are 6-4. Let me correct that here. Why did I say Northwestern? I think they're playing Northwestern this weekend. So let's make sure we get this right. Penn State and boom. There you go. Just like that. Michigan, a 4-point underdog, beat up Penn State last night. Virginia Tech smashes Dayton. Look out for Virginia Tech in the ACC. I know North Carolina, Duke struggled a little bit. Duke got the win the other night in the Jimmy V Classic versus Iowa. Top 25 teams last night: Purdue, Tennessee, Indiana, UConn all win. Don't sleep on Bobby Hurley and Arizona State. They came back against SMU. They are not ranked, but if they play like they did last night at SMU, Arizona State's going to be in that top 25 as well. Big Ten matchups for today, as college football has a limited schedule as well too. But everybody's in on that Rams and Raiders game for some reason today. The two teams you would not expect on Thursday night, and everybody else has a light schedule. I know colleges are getting to the Christmas time, so all the big games are going to be Saturday and Sundays now for college basketball. During the week, it's going to be a little lower. Tomorrow will be a big schedule in the NBA. We'll be back at 3 o'clock Eastern for that, as well as replays all day. Big Ten matchups today in Columbus and Minneapolis as Rutgers visits Ohio State. Ohio State, number 3 offensive rating-wise. Michigan visits Minnesota. I should mention Rutgers is number 8 defensively in the ratings-wise, but offensively they're not very good, and Ohio State's 70th defensively in the ratings. You can get those from all the rating services out there. In-state rivals also play tonight. Iowa will host number 20 Iowa State, and Colorado will host Colorado State in Boulder tonight. Colorado State having themselves a really good year to start. They are 6-3. Buffaloes have started 4-5 going into tonight. That's a late game on ESPN2. Michigan, Minnesota, the late game. The early games are Rutgers, Ohio State, and then Iowa State and Iowa. You can catch the Iowa State game on Fox Sports 1 tonight. All right. Best bets for college basketball tonight. Ohio State -6.5. I like their offense very much. Defensively, they can hold a Rutgers team that can't score on the road at all. Defensively, they're very good, but 6.5 points, a lot. Number 20, Iowa State. They've already had wins over North Carolina. They've already had wins over Villanova. They're going to get 4 points. Give me 4 points and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa struggled for some reason against Duke, and Duke is not very good defensively as they were in the past years, and they still couldn't get the ball in the hoop. Iowa State +4 tonight. And then we talked about the Colorado State Rams from the Mountain West Conference, +4 against their in-state rivals, Colorado Buffaloes tonight. I got a feeling that Colorado State, the Rams, +4 tonight versus the Colorado Buffaloes, not the LA Rams, the Colorado State Rams as we go. So best bet segment for the NFL, Las Vegas -6.5 in the NFL. The NBA, Portland -1. Houston -1.5. The Clippers +6. Make sure on that NFL game, by the way, make sure you find out who the starting quarterback is, whether it's Wolford or Mayfield. I would tend to lean more heavily on the Raiders if Mayfield's even started. And then your best bets in the NCAA, Ohio State -6.5, Iowa State +4, Colorado State +4. So 2 dogs and a favorite there. Finally, some sports and political news to get into. It's a big deal. The WNBA's Brittany Griner. I know a lot of people don't follow the WNBA, but this has been a bigger story than even just the games on the court. After 10 months, she's freed. She was exchanged in a prisoner swap between the U.S. and Russia. Brittany Griner has been released from prison in exchange for Victor Bout, nicknamed the Merchant of Death. If he can get out of the U.S. and he's nicknamed the Merchant of Death, and Russian officials will take care of him, don't know what we're going to see of Victor Bout, the Merchant of Death, but I definitely would not want to run into him in a dark alley or a lighted alley or a crowded restaurant or an empty room or anything like that. But Brittany Griner, after 10 months, I know everybody's going to talk about it politically, and I'm not going to give you any political takes on it. I just thought that some of the crimes that are committed in the United States that are of lesser nature, I get it. It's a foreign country. She should have known the rules. She's played overseas before. But the fact that she's released after 10 months is a big deal for the U.S. government, President Biden. Unfortunately, Paul Whelan, the other U.S. diplomat that was there, was not released. He's been there for 4 years. So hopefully President Biden, this is great for Brittany Griner, but for the Whelan family and Paul Whelan, it's not so good for him to be still kept up there in Russia as well, too. So maybe they can work on that as well, too. So political stuff aside, sports stuff aside, this is something I just thought would bring up Brittany Griner being free after 10 months in prison. All right, tomorrow, as we said, a full slate of NBA basketball, college basketball, big weekend coming up. We'll preview some of that. Of course, the NFL Week 14, we'll delve into that a little bit more. A full show on Sunday for the NFL. College football, the bowl games start next week. Any sponsorship inquiries, please contact me directly. We'd love to have you on. It'd be great to have you on the VParty Sports Podcast is a partner with us as well, too. For everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, thank you very much. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Have a great afternoon, and make sure you keep tuned to the replays if you missed any info. I am out. Thank you all for the VParty Sports Podcast. Have a great afternoon. Good luck with your games today.